Oh snap, we are live. This is the leg kick. We have special guests today, but first, not sponsored by Gatorade. Let me here. We've got Mike, the African warlord of Sifo, aka Joseph Kony's clone, raised to the age of 23. We're going to send him back into the Ghanaian jungles to conquer Africa. We've got Jeremy, the NCAA Division I soccer player. He's a midfielder, he's a defenseman, he's everything. He plays the field, ladies and gentlemen. And then finally, some guy who used to be on the Howard Stern show.
Beetlejuice.
So we have a special guest today. Am I breaking up?
No, I wasn't sure if you were freezing or you just developed a stutter.
Yeah, I was like, that's interesting.
I thought it was on purpose too, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was build up. Like, I want the knife.
Remix.
Come on,
So let me introduce to you our special guest today. You may know him as an extra from American History X. MMA since before the UFC was a thing. Sons of Anarchy. He's a pioneer of mixed martial arts, been fighting since the 90s. Black belt under Silvio Bering, coached to some of the finest talents in the game, Bob Sapp, Ben Flattop Fodor, Phoenix Jones, Demetrious Johnson. You might know him as Frank Colcher, Johnny Caged. And if you don't know, he was also cross-dressing into the ring before.
It wasn't in the ring.
So yes, that's a real story. We can get into it later. Frank wore a dress.
We can get into that right now.
I want to get into that right now.
Yeah,
what was
like a real pioneer.
Yeah, he pulled a Dennis Rodman before Dennis Rodman.
It was around the same time. Rodman was already doing it. Like they used to call Rodman like the Frank Culture of basketball.
I remember
back
that.
Then. So.
Yeah, that's right.
What it was it wasn't into the ring. The most I ever wore into the ring that was like that was on a bet was one of those shirts with the woman's body on it. That's it.
Yes.
But I guess it escalated. That's how it starts out. What it really was I was gonna fight this guy named Andy Social. That was his name. And I'm not really good like on the spot, so I had to write everything I was going to say down. It wasn't about my fight with him. I was trying to get a rematch with somebody that I'd fought twice before. I beat him. He beat me. His name was Max Marin. He was fighting a guy named Jake Hatton. So it was at the press.
Was that a press conference? I just wanted clarification. Okay.
Yes, it was at the press conference the day before. And so Stefano always gets it mixed up that I came into the ring like that. But what I did was, because nobody would get the joke, right? We won this dress at a strip club a couple weeks before, when Jesse wanted to meet Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man. That was his wrestling name because he'd left MMA and he was doing wrestling at this time. He hadn't gotten back into MMA. So there was a contest to win tickets to WWE. And my friend Barry, Mac Daddy Flex, who, there'll be stories about him. He teaches out in Oshawa and a bunch of towns out there. There's a couple Muay Thai gyms that are all linked together.
Rebel Alliance.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, don't. He won this dress. You were supposed to get up on stage and embarrass yourself, like to get tickets. Like there was 4 people that were going to win 2 tickets. So anyway, he got up there naked. It's in a strip club, but you can't be male and naked in a strip club, so you can't embarrass Barry. So he walks up on stage. The DJs are like, no, you get your clothes on. We're going to lose our license. So he had to do a bunch of ridiculous stuff like lick a shoe, which I didn't think was that gross at the moment, but now when you think about it, have you ever been in a public bathroom, a male public bathroom that the floor's not covered in piss? So luckily he didn't die. Years later he didn't catch anything. But part of it was he had to wear this dress, and they all had to run out and go to a different motel or hotel in the area. This is by the airport, and grab a business card from the hotel and race back. And it's not just MMA. Whatever we're going to do, we're going to win. So, like I said, it's not a team sport. Earlier, we were talking about MMA. I was saying MMA is not a team sport. It's a team effort. So when Barry went to run out to get his business card, I went with him. They sent him to the farthest hotel because it was rigged. They're trying not to have him win. And then we got it, and I flagged the cab on the way back. So even though it wasn't that far, we lucked out. We got a cab back. He was the first one back. Now, the tickets were rigged because Barry should have won all 4 tickets, but they wanted one guy to win 2 and someone else to win 2. That's just the way it was because Barry was the guy that was winning. What are you guys doing?
I'm looking for the
The iPad here.
Not only does he have dad jokes, he has dad responsibilities.
I know exactly.
But go on.
Okay, so where was I in that story? See, I knew this was gonna happen. You guys are going back in your dungeon, all right?
I love this.
Hey, say hi to Zeus.
Hey,
Whoa.
beauty.
That's adorable.
I wanted to name him Jupiter because the Romans appropriated Greek culture and they renamed all their gods, but they stuck with Zeus. So, yeah, some Italians
See
were,
what you did? You see what your people
Them
did, Stefano?
Italians were
Hey,
doing
listen,
shit from way in the
all my people did bring beautiful food and culture to the world, so you're welcome.
Oh, wait,
All
you
we
mean
did.
the noodles you stole from China?
Oh,
Get out of here,
wow.
from China. Okay, hold on. Let's get back to the story, and we
Okay,
can talk about how great Italian culture is. Thank you, later.
So, we flagged the cat back. You know, he had to kiss a guy in the mouth, which this wasn't Barry. This was the other guy. It's just a kiss. It's like the guy didn't have to put his tongue in Barry's mouth. And that's what Barry said to the guy. Like, dude, it doesn't have to go that far. But anyway, he didn't say that till after because he didn't want to lose. So anyway, they won the tickets. Barry and Jesse went because Jesse Richardson, that's how I know this guy from Matador. He was the guy that wanted to go meet Ken Shamrock because before I moved to train with Matt Hume, my big dream was to go to AMC and train with Matt Hume. Jesse was living in Edmonton at the time, and his dream at the time, because he had Shamrock's book on the lines then, was to go down and train with Ken Shamrock. He didn't know that they were all falling apart at that time, that they weren't really what they were kind of in the early 90s. So I convinced him, hey, come on out to Toronto for a couple of years. And then we got him hooked up. He was Marcus Suarez before. So then he came and he trained with us. And now he's full Silvio Bearing. But anyway, where was I in the story? This is what I knew would happen.
He made them he made them
Stefano,
business
man,
cards.
you're gonna have to
Man, you're in trouble right now.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Transforming.
disconnect and call back because your connection is not doing too well right now.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Testing.
Now we can.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. I can hear you too. Okay, continue. So you were just at the part where they forced two guys to kiss, and somehow this is leading into your knockout of Andy Soto.
Well, that's where the dress came from, because the dresses were $150 each. So they went to the strip club, had a little store next door where they would sell stuff for the strippers, and it was kind of like a wedding dress. It's this stretchy thing. So anyway, I took the dress with me to Toronto because I was fighting in a week. So that night we went out to meet Ken Shamrock and everything. We waited till all the WWE fans left. So what happened was all the WWE fans were there, like with their fake championship belts to get Ken to sign it and all this. So we waited until they left. Then we went up to meet Ken. And then, because we were fighters, we weren't wrestlers, we ended up hanging out with him and the owners of the club for the rest of the night. So my fight was a week later. So I wasn't drinking or anything because I was serious about my fight, because my fight before that was a loss to Max Marin because I was asked who I could fight. Like, the promoter asked me to fight this guy who I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight Max because I beat him easily 2 years before, and I just got back to fighting after an injury. So I'm like, well, I'll fight Max. So Max ended up beating me. So I was training super hard. I was super serious. But I wanted to get that rematch with Max. So now fast forward a week later to Edmonton. I'm in pretty good shape. And then, so you look jacked in that dress. Like when I pulled it on, because it was so stretchy, I put a toque on. If this is the States, I'd have to say beanie because they don't know what toques are down there. And I had some sunglasses on. And I also had a bunch of stuff I wanted to say. Even though I was fighting Antisocial, I wanted to talk crap to Max. And he was fighting Jake Hatton. So I wanted to interrupt their thing. So I worked it out with Jake Hatton and his manager that I won't come up and interrupt until you say what you're going to say. As soon as Max starts talking, I'm going to come up. So he's like, okay. So then Jake says what he's going to say. I come up, and since nobody's going to get the joke that I'm this guy's anti-social, I had a big sign that said anti like your uncle and auntie and social. So I come out, and I'm like,
his opponent's anti-social, get it?
Yeah. So my opponent's anti-social. Well, I'm anti-social, and then I put the sign down, and then I got everything I wanted to say, like a flow chart like people do on sales calls. So he says this, and I'm like, yeah, but and I wrapped it off, and then I looked like I was really quick and fast with the comebacks. So I'm not. I got to usually write stuff out, and it's like the room we're in right now is filled. It's like I don't know if you've seen Seven, the crazy guy with all the journals. These are all my screenplays.
Yes.
They're alphabetized and stuff. So
Wait, are those actually screenplays?
There's stuff that I've written and typed, and
man,
I've been working on my trilogy for a while now. My Dollars trilogy. So I don't know if you know anything about Fistful of Dollars, but again, with the Italians ripping off other cultures, Yojimbo is the greatest samurai movie of all time. It's it means bodyguard. So anyway, which is funny with your bodyguard thing that you're always talking about. He says there's a movie called Bodyguard 2.
Yeah. So that
never happened.
Little story that Frank didn't tell you about that. So that dress that he wore into the ring and at the press conference, that was the same dress that John Candy wore in The Punisher 3. Crazy. But Frank, tell them what ended up happening with that animal fight, or else it'll be anti.
Oh, you're cutting out again.
Yeah, you're cutting out.
Tell them about how you won the anti-social fight, or else it's anticlimactic.
Oh, okay. Basically, so if I was supposed to fight Andy, and then if I won him, I was gonna fight the winner of Jake Hatton versus Max Baron. So I don't know. It's not. I took him down and knocked him out in about a minute or so.
Hey.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. You guys have to see it. It's online, right?
Right. And then then Jake Hatton and he fought Max Marin. Max Marin went for an armbar around the same time, and then Jake picked him up, slammed him on his head, knocked him out. So instead of getting to fight Max, I got to fight Jake on the next one. And then so my fight with Jake, it went 3 5-minute rounds. I did everything I said I was going to do with the fight, which I was going to drag it out because I know he can knock people out quick, but he didn't think he could survive the distance. And Boss Rutan was in his corner. So after the first round, he tried to quit. He was blaming it on the elevation, like, oh, the elevation is killing me in Calgary. And I was thinking, well, no, you're from Colorado, though. So I don't know why it's the elevation. And they said it was his asthma. But Boss Rutan was cornering Shannon Rich earlier, and Shannon Rich got tapped out by Jason McDonald by a move that we learn as a white belt to defend against, which is from inside the guard, a forearm across the neck. That's what Jason Fire, the athlete, I'm not sure what his nickname is anymore, he tapped him out with that from inside the guard. So
wait,
Boss
Shannon
wasn't going to let the other guy
out with a forearm from guard?
What inside the guard. And it's funny because the two things we learn to defend against first are an Americana, that someone goes for you inside your guard. Mm-hmm. We take their back and choke them out. Jason fought a guy 6 weeks before that named Chris Peak. Inside his guard, he reached up, Americana'd him. So he did like two things you're not supposed to do to win 2 fights in a row. Like, that's how good he was on the ground. He was that much ahead of their levels, right?
Wow.
Because even Jason McDonald, when we were all like coming up in this game, he'd already moved to Hawaii and trained with Frank Shamrock like years before. Like he fought a bunch of cards kind of thing. So he already kind of had a name when I met him. He wasn't in the UFC yet. You know, the MFC kind of became a feeding show after I left the sport for the UFC. Like guys like, what's his name? He got kicked by Showtime. Ben
Henderson.
Ben Henderson, that's his last name.
Henderson.
What's that?
Benson Henderson.
Benson, yes. Yeah, he had a lot of fights in the MFC, and you know, a lot of the complaints people had of him was he was taking people down, holding them for the distance or whatever. But I mean, that's where you get your style. You know what I mean? Like, sure, that's what he did on some of them, but like he's racking up wins. He's flying up there. And, you know, you build yourself in these smaller shows. And it was a big show for us because it was one of the biggest shows in Canada. It was competition with the UCC, which became TKO, which was all my training partners trained at. Because I was from Alberta and I had my first couple fights there, I had a following. So I would train with all these guys that would fight in Montreal. But then I would go out and fight out west and then headline the shows there. Here, I always had an issue with Stefan Padre, the guy that runs the TKO. And the problem was, we'd argue online about this, is I would say, you know, you're not giving Ontario fighters a chance. Like, you're building your guys. You're building St. Pierre. You're building all these guys from Montreal. And he'd always argue. He'd say, no. I had 10 Quebec fighters and I had 20 Ontario fighters on my card. And I was like, yeah, but you have a different 20 every time. You have the same 10 Montreal fighters and they're getting that experience. And then you're getting a different 20 Ontario fighters all the time. So, like, guys that I knew were getting, like, 1-2 fights a year, UCC, while George St. Pierre is getting, like, 10. And it up to your level. That's a big part of the game is competition. That whole saying, steel sharpens steel, it's so true, and competition is the trick. Like, when I've trained my guys, like, in about 3 months, I stick them in their first jiu-jitsu tournament. And then I don't let them fight MMA for about a year. Most of my guys get about 10 fights or so. My best fighter that I trained personally, not with anybody else's help, was Ozzy Diaz. He had 12 jiu-jitsu competitions, but it was 12 golds. So like he was ready for MMA when he got into MMA. So I sent him the last fight one of the last fights to you that the other day. They'll knock out.
Oh yeah, that was the step back counter, right?
Yes, and this is where I always have an argument with one friend of mine in Seattle all the time, and a lot of guys say when Connor knocked out, I'm bad with names today, Jose, with that cross.
Oh, with that step back cross.
Yeah. It's like he had people spying in Brazil, and he knows how Jose fights, right? He's just linear, in and out, jab, cross, kick. Like that's what he does. So you got longer reach, you're gonna time that counter. It's no luck. And then I as an example, I try and show him it's no luck because I send him clips of Ozzy. Ozzy did that. The guy was coming in with a big right hook, and then Ozzy stepped back through a right counter, knocked him out. Another one of my fighters, name's Danny Garcia. His first fight, same thing. It wasn't a knockout, it was a TKO. The guy swung a straight right. He went to the outside, hit him with the right. They dropped him. The ref stopped it. Essentially a knockout. A TKO. The only difference, the ref stopped it. But it's taught. If someone comes at you 100%, they've given away all their other all the other options. Jose option is I'm going to go cross hook and I'm going to leg kick you or I'm going to head kick you. So if you know that's coming, then it's an easy counter. Not easy, not an easy counter that'll knock them out, but an easy counter that's going to connect. And they both kind of connected, but one was more solid than the other. So.
Wow.
That must be the longest intro we've ever done.
Oh, that was the intro, huh?
You went from wearing a dress as antisocial to the cross step back cross counter works in MMA.
I get it.
That's wonderful.
When you're just so filled with MMA knowledge, I mean, it can be hard to kind of like bottle it.
I love it.
This is me and Stefano every night after class, which is why, like, if he's there, my girlfriend knows I'm not coming home till like 11:30 or so, because we get outside and I get home and she'd be like, yeah, Stefano was there, wasn't he?
Okay.
She'll be asleep because it's like.
See what you up with the boys.
Speaking of which, Frank brought up Ozzy Diaz, his fighter. You told me a pretty funny story. If you don't want to share it, you don't have to. But about Ozzy Diaz and Dominic Reyes.
Which
Please
part?
Tell the story. Please.
Just to start. Okay. So when Dominic Reyes was coming up, it was around the same time as Ozzy. So they got about Dominic has way more wrestling experience. So the night that Ozzy knocked out, Ozzy was going for a title against a guy named Gerald Cephas, who got his black belt because he beat a guy. He's a power lifter turned fighter, Jens Grouse, that trained with. I don't know if it's Boss Rutan again. I'm getting so many names in my head. Yeah, Boss Rutan. Because so Ozzy actually lost to which story? The story about Jens Grouse or how he got his title, or all the way at Dominic Reyes, or it's kind of all.
I mean, hey, go crazy, man.
Okay, so when he fought Jens Grouse, Ozzy only had 2 fights, and Jens Grouse had way more experience. And this was my fault because I know that you can be a talented fighter, but experience is going to trump that. Again, I go back to experience. That's why I throw my guys into tournaments right away. Like if I have a fighter who's not fighting, he's doing jiu-jitsu tournaments. If he's not doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, I'm not going to let him fight because that's always been my belief. And it's worked. So Jens Grouse had lost his title to this guy Gerald Cephas, and when Gerald Cephas took his title, he got his black belt that night. So Gerald Cephas got his black belt and the title. Now Jens Grouse is going to fight someone. Ozzy's guy pulls out for his second or his third fight, so they give him Jens Grouse. And so I'm like, well, I'm not going to let this happen. So I'm talking to Ozzy, and the promoter calls me up on the phone on the way there. And so I say, okay, well, I got to talk to my assistant coach. I have to talk to Chenzo, and then Ozzy says, oh, I already talked to Chenzo. Chenzo said it's good. So I said, oh, okay. Well, Chenzo said, yeah, okay, we'll take the fight. And then I go to Ozzy, hey, when did Chenzo say yes to this fight? He goes,
wait, hold on, quick interjection. Is that Chenzo Gracie?
Chenzo Gracie? No.
Okay, go on. Sorry, I couldn't waste that opportunity.
You're so why?
So,
Okay.
like, when you want to get the car, you're like, Mom, can I have the keys to the car? Dad said yes. And she's like, okay. And then you go to Dad, hey, Mom said I can have the keys to the car. Oh, okay. And then you get the car. That old trick. So that's what he did for the fight, because I go, oh, when did Chenzo say yes? He goes, well, he's going to say yes now that you said yes. So he really wanted that fight. So Ozzy really wanted this fight. This is when he was still a white belt in jiu-jitsu. And he lost that fight. He won the first round. And I always see the mistakes I make. And my mistake in this one was he controlled the stand-up in the first round. He did take one punch from him. He said it's the hardest he's ever been hit, because Jens Grell is this power lifter. Like, he's just jacked. But the second round, it's like you decisively won that first round with the kickboxing. Take him down and sit on him for a while. And I didn't tell him to take him down. He went out and he struck him again. And of course, if you got Boss Rutten in your corner, Boss Rutten's going to tell you, okay, throw a straight right to the body, left uppercut to the head, or you've been throwing overhand rights the whole time, throw a straight right, because that's what the guy was throwing. And so he got him with a straight right.
Dang.
He had him leading the other way. So that was my fault. So he lost that title. And then so on to the Jens Grell, where he got the fight that I sent you recently. He's fighting when he's fighting Gerald Cephas, who got his black belt by beating Jens. This is for the title. Like, he worked his way up to the title. So he was just ahead of Dominic Reyes, because Dominic Reyes, they came along at the same time. So Dominic Reyes wasn't in line for the title. This is at the University of MMA. It's a pretty good organization, amateur fights in California. And I like the way Camo's set up. I like the way the amateur fights help build fighters down there. So it's a pretty good system. Every system has its issues, but they build you. Like, at first you have to wear shin pads. After 3 fights, you don't. So it's just, there's really protects you at
they baby step you in.
They baby step you in, but you can move quick. Like, they're 2-minute rounds, but after your third fight, you can have 3-minute rounds. Because for the fight that he got, he beat one of Jason Mayhem Miller's proteges to get to fight Gerald Cephas.
Hold on, let me look that up.
Okay.
Beat Samuel Ray Barrera.
That's his name. Yeah. And he made him look bad. Like, he choked him out. Most of his fights are rear naked choke finishes. But he just owned him the whole fight. You can see how stressed Mayhem Miller was. Like, this little gym in LA that no one ever heard of, and this guy's doing great.
NZT,
so that
right?
fight what's that?
NZT?
Yeah, and that fight was supposed to be 2 minutes, but a week before they're like, do you want it to be 3 minutes? And like, we train for 2-minute fights. And Ozzy's like, no, 3's good. So he always
Ozzy's a wild guy, man. Like,
he is. That's what I'm saying. Like, he tricked me into. So he got knocked out, and he quit for like a good 3 to 6 months after he lost to Jens Grouse. And then he came back, worked his way up, beat a bunch of guys, won a blue belt tournament at white belt, like submission only, like just worked his way. Like, he just came back super hungrier than he was. And that's what a knockout will do, right? It'll either finish you or make you super hungry. And he was already the hungriest guy. Like, when I left Tap Out and I gave everyone that followed me from Tap Out a special deal for joining, it's like, okay, you guys, because you followed me, you get $80 a month. Everybody, new guys get 100. And even right back then, he's like, no, coach, I want to pay 100. I want to pay the full price. Like, champions don't want to take shortcuts. Champions will work 2 jobs, or like George St. Pierre, 3 jobs or as a garbage man. Like, those guys, they don't shortcut it. They put in the steps. It's in their character. That's why they become champions, right? So then, where was I? Got a little lost.
Okay,
so he was just getting this
facing Gerald Cephas.
Is this still the intro?
Again.
And my name is Frank Colcher. Hello, everybody. So let's begin the podcast.
No, we're way past that.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Colcher, and you're listening to Colcher Shock.
That's a good one.
It's a book.
So Gerald Cephas and Ozzy Diaz are fighting.
Yeah. So as I go to fight, Gerald Cephas, it's weird because we'd only ever seen him knock people out with left hooks. We didn't even expect a right hook. So it's funny watching people warm up in the change room, because everybody on the pads are like world champions in the back of any fights you go to. This guy, people are lighting up the pads, and they go out and they usually get smoked, or they don't look half as good as they looked on the pads. And so everybody else is slick and doing their movements, and we're kind of doing our movements where I'm coming at him with a left and he hits me with an uppercut. I didn't even throw a right hook. Because Gerald Cephas, it didn't look like it was in his repertoire. But I'm just, getting him to slip out of the way, working his combos, doing a pretty basic warm-up. So when the bell rang, I'm calling jab, jab. I'm actually calling numbers, like ones and twos are jabs and crosses, but I'm saying one. And then Gerald Cephas charges in with this big right hook, and then Ozzy sidesteps and throws a right cross. So I'm like, okay, or a two, because he knocked him out. So we went in and we decided, well, I grabbed the mic and I said, it wasn't a submission win, but he deserves his blue belt for tonight. So we gave him his blue belt, and I think we threw him, because we throw you and we whip you when you get your belt. Like, you don't have to be whipped because it's 2020 now, so the gauntlet is bad for something. I don't know. Like, you know what the gauntlet is?
Yeah, we're like run through the line, and so basically for everyone,
it's something I look forward to. Like, I couldn't wait for it to happen when I was a white belt. Couldn't wait when I was a blue belt, right? So got whipped, and when I was a black belt, I waited till I was a black belt to take the gi top off, but I wanted to get whipped. It was going to be the last time, because it's a sport that we do. It's almost like hazing, right, for the military. They're taking hazing. They took hazing out of the military because these people are changing themselves into someone who has to go off and kill someone else. So you have to get into a mentality, right? But, it's not good for us, according to somebody that saw a video and didn't like what they were doing. Anyway.
I will say, I remember, when I was doing classes, and there was some practices with some kids that some of the moms wouldn't like every once in a while. You get to like, so I think I can sympathize with that.
Wait, hold on, Mike. Are we gonna have to call CSIS here? What's going on with these kids? What do you mean some unsavory practices that the moms wouldn't like? You're gonna have to get
I mean, like when I was young, like
here.
Small, right? And you go do training, right? Okay. Like every once in a while they're like, why is Timmy crying? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like because he had to hit the board. It's like, oh, why is he hitting the board?
But here's the thing.
Why does Mike have a mushroom shaped bruise on the back of his head? Sorry.
These aren't jiu-jitsu. This is like one of them McDojos you're talking about, I think.
And Frank, why are you drinking urine? Come on.
It's not. It's actually 7-7. It's
Ooh. Frank's
getting
I want to drink.
Okay, so how does Dominic Reyes tie into this? Because
where does Kevin Lee fit into all this?
Fit into this?
So the same time, like,
thank you.
At this point, Ozzy has had like one fight in the UFC ahead of Dominic Reyes, so he's worked his way up to have the title fight. His when he won the title, it was a nice 16-second knockout, boom. And then Dominic Reyes won that night too, and it was like a TKO or something. It wasn't as nice. His striking didn't look as good. It wasn't as good as it is, but he was now the number one guy. So Ozzy gets his title in 16 seconds, and then we have like 6 weeks or 8 weeks till the next one. He's going to defend his title against Dominic Reyes. So here's the mistake that I felt I made on this one, was Dominic Reyes is a southpaw, or he was at that time, been wrestling. What's that?
Still a southpaw.
Right. So he's been wrestling.
He likes to
his
switch.
whole career with his right leg in front, probably cross-facing people that grab for a single leg, right? He's cross-facing them the whole time, and a cross-face in wrestling is a rear naked choke in jiu-jitsu. So Ozzy, with it, got his title in 16 seconds, loses it in about 25 because he does a deep single with his head on the outside, like a rookie mistake against a guy who's been wrestling his whole life. So in wrestling, he would have got cross-face, but it's MMA, so he got caught in a rear naked choke. And then he went to sleep. And this is what I don't like about Dominic Reyes. He doesn't know who Ozzy is. Why does he got to keep it unprofane, right? Did I swear at all? Have I sworn yet? Okay, cool.
No.
I thought I did, and I was about to. For no reason. This is not really. If we're talking about female dogs, it's okay. So he grabs him in the rear naked choke, and for no reason he says, "Go to sleep," and then he chokes him up. And then Ozzy's not going to tap, right? Ozzy even told me after the fight, he goes, "Yeah, coach, I don't want to tell anybody this, but I could see myself, like, from up above. I could see myself asleep on the mats." So when he got choked out, he, like, left his body for a second, and he could see it all.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But so then he got 2 more titles after that. He got a Southern, so he lost that title. Dominic Reyes went where he went and just got better and better and better. But I think Ozzy was at the same level as him. It was just, I would have liked to have seen that fight go longer. And I was kicking myself because I saw him doing that single leg in the change room, and it just didn't clue in. It's like, it's such a thing. You don't do that against a wrestler. You don't, especially a wrestler that now knows how to choke you, because it's just
always on the inside.
They're gonna, because your head's here, right? So when I cross face you, I already got a hook in, and then I just put my other hook in, and you're going out.
Yeah, and the worst part is he probably got the broomstick too with it.
We were talking to Dean.
Broomstick.
We were talking to Dean the other week, and he was saying how crazy it is how coaches.
The broomstick takedown, no.
No, not the broomstick takedown, but like, never mind. Sorry, go ahead, David.
No, I was just saying, like, it's crazy how coaches kind of take responsibility for when their fighter either makes a mistake or doesn't do something the way like they had envisioned it. So no, I just wanted to know, do you feel like if you had told him that he would have been able to kind of overcome those shortcomings, or do you think that or do you think Dominic Reyes would have had, like, it would have played out the way it did?
I just think what I would have liked him. I don't know. It's like it's 2020. Hindsight's 2020, right? Mm-hmm. It was right after it happened. It's like, wait, I saw that in the change room, and I just, I just didn't clue in at the time. Like, here's something I think about coaching. Like, so when I'm coaching, a lot of coaches think that they're like playing a video game, and they're that wired in. I'm offering suggestions to what they can do. I can be telling Stefano to throw a left hook, to knock someone out. He could have his shoulder could be half dislocated. He might, you know what I mean? So if he can't do it, he's got to do his own thing. They're just suggestions I'm throwing out.
Do you know what I think of? That makes me think of the Anthony Smith fight, if you remember that one, where basically his coaches were calling out combos like for the entirety of the round, and eventually he got so gassed that the other fighter, who was it again?
Glover Teixeira.
Glover Teixeira eventually just
G-Lover.
Yeah, just ground him up.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that's interesting that you're saying that.
The reason I coach that way is because I've been in situations where my coaches tell me to do something and I can't do it, because my shoulder was dislocated one time. So I didn't have a coach for that one, though. JF Bolduc was in my corner. We flew down to IFC. This is and to fight in Fresno. Was it Fresno? One of those places, Fresno. And the only other Canadian fighter was JF Bolduc. So I was like, hey guys, you're each other's cornermen. So here you go. So what was cool about the IFC, well, not that it was cool, but to compete with the UFC, they wanted to have an international flavor. So one of the fighters was from LA, but he was Mexican. So it's like, from Mexico, this guy, from Canada, JF Bolduc, right? If the guy was Irish, from Ireland, but he's really from Fresno. That's what they would do. They would just hype it up. So, this is an international event. We got fighters from everywhere. So they'd spend a little bit of money to get us down, because the IFC would go up to Montreal on the Indian Reserve because it was, illegal. Mm-hmm. Even my coach, Matt Hume, who I moved to Seattle to train with, he on one of the extreme fightings that he did, he fought, or he was coaching on that one, but he snuck out of the hotel when everybody got arrested. The cops, he did fight on that one, I think. The cops waited till the fight was over because they didn't want there to be like a riot or a brawl. And they arrested everybody after the fights. But he snuck out. I think they caught Orlando Veit. You remember him, Stefano?
I don't remember Orlando Veit, no.
No, he was in UFC too. He
he's the one that...
Rimco Pardo. Held him, and he had him in like a head and arm, and his head was there, and like a light bulb went on. He's like, oh, wait a sec. And he just started dropping elbows on him.
Wait, I got a question for Frank. Obviously, you're talking about some MMA legends like Matt Hume. Like, I mean, I just want to ask you, what was it like to train MMA with such a legend back then? You're talking about like Indian reservations. These are foreign concepts to a lot of MMA fans and a lot of MMA practitioners now. So what was it like to train with such a legend back then when the sport was still in its infancy?
So Matt Hume, I knew of Matt Hume since about 90-something. And my original goal when I first started training with all the guys, like I wasn't going to stick around in Canada very long. So when I moved to Fresno and blew my shoulder out, my plan was I was moving to Seattle soon after that. But I retired from MMA. After I blew my shoulder out, I started, helping a friend of mine to film some short films, and I wanted to make movies. Like that was my other kind of passion I had. And so I would have moved in to Seattle to train with Matt Hume in 2001 or 2000, But I ended up staying a couple more years. I took about a year off where I didn't train. I kind of did it the wrong way. Like everybody else, like that goes really far in this sport, they just get the surgery and they just go forward. Like DJ's had a couple surgeries. Mighty Mouse, he broke his hand in his first fight in the WEC, but he was back within months. The recovery rate, especially I was like 26, is way higher. So you just if you break something, Stefano, just fix it and go back in there like you did with your knee, right? Like just don't wait. So when I did finally get to train with Matt, that was in 2004 is when I moved there. So it was still amazing though, because it was like little stuff like when Matt Hughes did the crucifix on top of Carlos Newton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something Matt Hughes had always been doing. Like he'd been doing crucifix. Like there's stuff that stuff that he was doing back then that people are doing today, and also it just felt like the evolution of the sport. It's like things you're watching people doing, he would teach it as a class. Like, oh, we do this, we do that, and it's like it was like learning jiu-jitsu and kickboxing all together because everything was related. Like it was all connected. Like he's always been a mixed martial artist. Like he went to Abu Dhabi. He did the submission wrestling, but he was a kickboxer before that, and he started boxing when he was 5 years old. He told me he was watching some TV show. I don't know why Blue's Clues is popping in my head, but it's not, because it was a show like that he was watching, and he looked over at his dad. He said, I want to try boxing. So his dad took him down to the boxing gym when he was 5.
So how about you, Frank?
I trained with Bruce Lee too for a little bit, so don't know if that means anything, but.
How about you? Then what made you want to get into MMA? Because obviously nobody's born knowing.
Bruce Lee.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, more Bruce Lee than anybody else. Everybody else says they've seen a Bruce Lee movie and then they wanted to do this. Mine was the opposite. I think I might have saw a Fantasy Island episode when I was a kid where this guy wanted to be a martial arts guy. And then I rewatched it recently. And I don't know if you guys know who Mako is, but the guy that he fought for his little Kung Fu Showdown was Mako, who's this Japanese icon with that deep voice. I think he's on Samurai Jack. I think he's the voice of that guy as Mako. You recognize his voice if you hear it. He just died.
Is it Apu or
Apu?
Yes.
That's Samurai Jack, man. What a show. What a show.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
he ended up being funny story, Avatar: The Last Airbender connection. He was General Iroh.
I just watched that.
Uncle Iroh?
Yeah, Uncle Iroh. He was Uncle Iroh, and he ended up passing away. Yeah, passed away.
Rest in peace.
If your urine is this dark, you have kidney problems. I'm telling you.
So I think that's the guy we're talking about. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know it. It's like I can't even do deep voices. There's no bass.
Oh yeah.
If you want trouble, if you come to the right base.
So you think that Bruce Lee got you into MMA? I mean, it's
Well,
one thing to watch it
here's
on
the Bruce
like
Lee
TV.
connection.
What made you go into a gym and actually compete?
So I'm a little kid growing up, and first, so you think the ninja came over here in movies? They didn't. Frank Miller, the writer of 300 and Sin City, and The Dark Knight Returns, comic writer, he wrote Daredevil. He was an artist first. He wrote Daredevil. He brought the ninja over there in the hand. The hand were his ninjas, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Those guys love Frank Miller so much, they're like, well, let's call our ninjas the Foot. And then Daredevil had a mentor that Frank Miller introduced called Stick. Well, let's just call him Splinter. Like, they totally just ripped off. Even the origin of the Turtles in the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic, when it was for grown-ups, is a canister hits a kid across the eyes, blinds him. So it's Daredevil's origin, then it bounces a bunch more times, and then it lands in the sewer, and then it makes the Turtles. So anyway, I don't know how I got... Oh, yeah, Frank Miller. So I wanted to be a ninja when I was 12. Right? wanted to go to Japan. You know, I looked at martial arts as like catching arrows and meditating and levitating. And then I moved to Alberta, redneck Alberta. And it kind of became... I started a form of jiu-jitsu in Ottawa. His name's Jean-Yves Theriot. Or no, wait. Therian Jiu-Jitsu, but Jean-Yves Theriot was a kickboxer that trained out of there as well. He was
Yves Theriot. Yeah. I know of Yves Theriot, legendary Canadian kickboxer.
Iceman, right?
Yeah.
He trained out of there too. So my first style was jiu-jitsu, but it was more like wrist locked and escapes from being grabbed and break falls. So my first month of doing break falls, I thought I was learning how to karate chop people on the ground. because you're like, break fall number 1, slap. Okay, so we're slapping people in the groin on the ground. But then, that's my best skill I ever learned because it saved me so many times. Like one time, my 30th birthday, I was falling face first because Jesse threw me to grab my shirt, and I did a break fall that broke my arm. Like it shattered my elbow, but it saved my neck because I would have landed on my face. I've wiped out on my bike. So whenever I'm teaching self-defense and I teach them a break fall first, I tell them this in Canada will save your life more than anything else. Like fall down, you're on the ground, you did a break fall. You didn't even know you did it. So anyway, back to the story. I knew this was going to be the problem because I ramble. So I wanted to do martial arts, and I watched kung fu movies, but I didn't watch Bruce Lee movies because I'm like, I don't know why. I know why now. Because once I watched a Bruce Lee movie, all those kung fu movies I watched before were crap.
Yeah, they ruined it.
He was that much above everybody else, right? Yeah. And then years later, I'll get into Quentin Tarantino later, but he kind of did the same thing with movies. But as a millennial, you're seeing Quentin on this side. You aren't seeing Quentin before movies. There's like the BQ2 era and the AQT era, where after movies they just changed. And they sucked for a long time in the 90s because of him. Anyway, that's another ramble. You can edit that out, right?
Yeah, I got you.
So then I watched Bruce Lee, and I didn't just watch him, but I read everything he wrote. Like, so I read the Tao Jeet Kune Do. So before, I'd only done a little bit of that jiu-jitsu, not the jiu-jitsu we're doing now. And I was going to go join a taekwondo gym when we moved to Red Deer, Alberta.
Hey, taekwondo.
Yeah.
And then he realized it was useless and decided to train jiu-jitsu again. Frank, go on.
What's that? Taekwondo?
Oh, yeah, thoroughly useless. Mike seems to think there's some kind of...
I got a nice jump spinning hook kick knockout that I probably sent you 8 times.
There we go. There it is. I like him already.
And a Muay Thai fight.
This is the quietest I've ever seen fight.
And a Muay Thai fight. Wow.
Hold on. Mike, it worked in the 90s. Don't try it in 2020, okay? Guys back then didn't have takedown defense.
But you know what? So in my fight where I blew my shoulder out, this is before we knew striking was good for MMA. I had my shoulder out for like 10 minutes. They were 10-minute rounds. They weren't 5s. And I thought, oh, man, I'm in shock or something. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm going to faint. I'm going to throw this jump spinning hook back kick, and it's either going to look good or he's going to catch it and dump me on my head. So then I got dumped on my head. I thought, that didn't work. And then he threw a guillotine on me, and I'm like, this isn't working. I tapped. The ref didn't see it. So I kept going. Okay, maybe I'll get something. Kept moving around, and I could feel it. Like, I didn't know my shoulder was out. This is what's messed up about injuries is, like, shoulder was out. It just felt like it was asleep. Like, you wake up at 2 in the morning, and your arm's asleep. It's like, why is my arm asleep? And then after, you feel the pain when the ref puts it back in, or the ring doctor. But so the whole connect. So we moved to Red Deer. Was reading a lot of Bruce Lee, and he's always talked about like 4 ranges, he called it, and just like the totality of martial arts. So when mixed martial arts came out, it was what Bruce Lee was saying the whole time. And you get all these people that like you watch a video of Bruce Lee on YouTube, and they just go on. They don't have anything to base what they're calling him bullshit. Oh, he's just an actor. He's this, he's that. They don't know what he's really done for influence in the martial arts. And if you look at all these coaches like Greg Jackson, they all know that Bruce Lee was the guy they looked up to. And not just for his movies. Like, the movies were great, but it's his writings outside of that. Like, I have that when you get those lists of what are your favorite authors, blah, blah, blah. I always put Frank Miller in there. I always put Bruce Lee in there. He's not a writer, but he authored a book, so he's one of my favorite authors, next to Hunter S. Thompson.
I've always said Bruce Lee's, like, philosophies on martial arts was, like, it was definitely a great starting out point for MMA.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. People don't necessarily credit him enough for, I guess, breaking stylistic boundaries. If it works, it works. Which, and apparently he was starting to experiment with grappling towards the end with judo and.
Oh yeah, with Gene LaBelle.
Yeah. Before he was killed by the CIA.
Allegedly.
I'm not trying to get sued.
Allegedly.
Whose theory is that?
Sorry. Oh, the theory that Bruce Lee was killed by the CIA?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Neither have I. I just made it up on the spot, to be honest with you.
It's everywhere. He wasn't killed by the CIA. He was killed by the triads. That's what they say.
That's right. Allegedly. I don't know anything about anything.
Allegedly.
Yeah, and then there's the whole conspiracy theory afterwards about that his son on the filming of a movie in Hong Kong was shot
I don't
somehow.
think The Crow was filmed in Hong Kong, though. I think
Was
it
it
was
not Hong
filmed
Kong?
in San Francisco.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
wherever the movie was filmed, the conspiracy theory was that
Yeah.
they checked the guns beforehand. You know, they were going to be all firing off blanks. He was going to be fine. Then somehow he ends up shot because there was a rock in one of the barrels of the guns that was supposed to be.
No, what it was they didn't have dummy bullets for an earlier scene, so they took a real bullet, opened it up, took all the gunpowder out, put it in, and they had all these dummy bullets that they'd made on the set. And one of the dummy bullets was kind of left in when they put the blanks in or whatever, so it was a dummy. It was a real bullet. So there was enough gunpowder that it fired off, and it still killed him. Wow. So like, you can take all the gunpowder out of a bullet and put it back in a gun, you're still going to be able to kill someone with it. But it wasn't supposed to be in there. It might have been in the chamber or something, and they put the blanks in. And as an actor, you're not supposed to point the gun at the guy anyway. Like, if I'm going to shoot you, you know, I'm going to shoot beside you unless it's up close, because there's a paper that comes out anyway. So
industry secrets, man.
But if you're acting, though, you know what I mean? In spur of the moment, heat of the moment, you're probably going to point the gun right at me. Even if I tell you, you know what? Point it off to my side. You're just going to be in the moment, right?
Yeah, and I find like people usually try to make some kind of explanation for deaths that they don't understand. So that's probably why this is like
David, people hold on. David, people okay? It's not just people try and make explanations for all kinds of things they don't understand. That's how we have conspiracy theories, man.
You know, that's how we have religion.
I have my conspirity theories.
Who said? Wait, hold on.
This is a Christian podcast.
My boy. Frankie,
I want to believe the world is flat.
That's why we have religion. Frankie, my boy.
This is a Christian podcast. Anyway, my question to you, Frank, was because you talked about coaching Demetrious Johnson. Can you talk about how that came to pass and what that was like? I mean,
so here's how DJ came about. So he saw the first season. I moved to Seattle around the time of the first season of Ultimate Fighter, like 2004. That's when the first one came out. And MMA was not really anywhere. Like, it wasn't like it is today. And I really believe that Spike TV and Ultimate Fighter,
they saved it.
They needed each other. Like, Spike TV needed something like we're the man's network. Remember, that's what their deal was. We're for men. So let's get this reality show that's like the real life on steroids. Like, have these athletes that are going to fight each other.
Yeah, it's like all
in a house for the drama. And then, you know, and now when you go to watch UFC, you're like, oh, I know that guy. I saw him on TV. So everybody got interested in it. Like, oh yeah, these guys, these fighters, like they're people. Let's watch them. So that blew it up because there was when my battery, for some reason my battery's running low.
All right.
Stick it in.
It's
plugged in. Take this opportunity actually to do the news.
They're still doing that?
Hey, guys. So every story with Frankie is as follows. So Frank, how did you what happened? How did you find that quarter on the ground 15 minutes ago? So, in 1945,
and what is a quarter?
What you got to understand is that the first Kung Fu movie came out in 1945, and they had a big inspiration on me picking up that quarter.
I had a 50 cents in my pocket one time.
Frank, I just roasted you. I don't know if you heard of it.
I heard it. Okay. I'll tell you about the quarter later, though. Okay, so you want to do the news, or do you want me to tell you about DJ?
No.
Oh, no, I was just doing it so that your battery could be in. Okay. But honestly, like, I'm good. Go ahead.
So the first season of Ultimate Fighter came out. DJ saw it, and he's like, and he was a wrestler. He was a high school wrestler at the time. So his experience for combat sports before that was 3 years of high school wrestling. And this is what's cool about DJ. His first 2 years competing, he'd never been taken down. So in his third year, he was on his butt for the first time. And he's like, whoa, this is new to me. I've never been here. Like, he was that good of a wrestler. But he didn't decide to go to, go further in the college stuff. He wanted to try the sport. So there was AMC where I uprooted my life because I'd wanted to move to AMC since 98, 99. I finally moved there in 2004. And then I after about 8 months, Matt asked me to teach. So I started teaching. And then I would go, there was 2 locations. There was one down, it's called the Super Mall, this big mall down in Auburn. And they had a Vision Quest named after the movie because Matt partnered up with a wrestler, Brad something. He had Vision Quest, and it was a huge gym. And then it had a boxing ring, MMA ring. And then later on, they actually got a pro wrestling ring in there. So you could bounce off the ropes and bounce off the floor. Like, They're really springy, but they had pro wrestling there too, and just more weights and this huge like windows, like people walking in the mall could see you, and I guess it was great for advertising. So Matt was having Matt's wife was having their first baby. So, and I know how these things work. It's like, oh, until the baby's born, can you go down to Auburn on Thursdays and help Steve? That was another guy that came to AMC to be a fighter, but he became a coach of DJ and a lot of other guys from the Auburn location. So I would go down Thursdays, and the baby was born, and then I was still going down there Thursdays. Like Matt would come down, Saturdays or every other Thursday, but it was now my job to go down there on Thursdays. So I met DJ when he was down there, and he was just, he was a student like everybody else, learning the way, but he was just, tenacious. He just, like when I stopped teaching down there, this is the stories you'd always hear. Like if someone was extra tired or they were run down, they're like, oh, what happened? Oh, DJ. Because he'd run through people. Because everybody was bigger than him, right?
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And then I guess 10 years later, he goes and armbars Ray Borg in that highlight where he picks him up and then armbar. Yes. That was awesome. That was crazy.
Yeah, I got here in 2015. So actually 5 years before that was his first fight in the WEC, and almost 5 years to the day, because it showed up on my Facebook like you were here. I was taking a picture he's a brand new fighter, so friends and family got seats way up in the back of the stadium, right? So I'm sitting behind all these other people's and their families, and obviously someone's coach 2 rows in front of me, because this guy was yelling out numbers to everybody. I think it was everybody's coach sitting in front of me in the back row, because he was louder than anybody in the gym. And this guy's like, jab cross, take him down. Actually, you didn't know him at all. He was the loudest guy in the place. And then 5 years later, when I came out here for a quick visit, I was driving I closed my gym in LA, and I was driving across the country to help another legend in the sport here, Shaw Franco, who trained all of us, a lot of MMA fighters. He was going away for 3 to 6 months to Japan. So I took over his school and lived in the back for that time. This is 2015. And then I got a call that DJ was headlining the show in Montreal. So I got a couple of the good tickets. This time, though, since he's not just like a starting fighter, but he's like the main event, now the family friend seats were the best, because I was sitting right next to Chuck Liddell, and behind me was an actor who Luis Guzman. So I see the name and I'm thinking, oh, there's a fighter named Luis Guzman, not thinking it's the actor. And I turn around and it's Luis Guzman. And for some reason, it's been years since I've seen Blood In, Blood Out. And this is my most embarrassing moment that I didn't even figure it out. He's not in Blood In, Blood Out. There's this other actor that only looks like him when he moves his eyes a certain way. So I got a still of the guy. His name's Popeye in the movie. So I meet Luis Guzman and I'm like, oh, man, we always do this that your character did in Blood In, Blood Out. So I go on for 5 minutes. If someone has read. So in the movie, Popeye,
Guzman, by the way, is famous as hell.
Give me some chun chun.
More recognizable
right?
Out there.
Who's seen Blood In, Blood Out? Anybody?
No, I have not seen it. But
No.
Luis Guzman was he probably really recognizable? So.
Yes.
Yeah, no, he is.
And he doesn't look like this actor, but I thought, you know what? So one time when I was looking it up, there's a picture of the guy where he's got the same eyebrows because he's making a face, but it's a still. That's it. That's the only time he would ever look like this guy. He's just.
Oh, I know Luis Guzman.
So I'm like, oh man, this is he's just age. He was that young, is what I'm thinking. So in the movie, he's like, give me some chun chun to Milkweed, who is, that's like the main star of the show. And if you watch Blood In, Blood Out, a lot of the guys on my team, because everybody that I taught at NZT was mostly from Mexico, and then a few from Guatemala, 1 or 2 from Honduras, but everybody was from south of the border. And then there was 3 black guys, and I'd always say, and it's just us 4 black guys. So that, and there was 2 white guys.
Okay.
So,
I don't know if anybody else has any questions for Frank, but I got one, which is, what's the difference between coaching in Canada versus anywhere else that you coached?
If there's a difference, I don't know, because the sport's caught up. When I first moved to Seattle and I came back and I'd go to the big pro shows there, because there was no amateur here. We had amateur down in the States and it was better, but right away you've had one fight and now you're fighting for a title pro. and you might have some jiu-jitsu experience. So that's where the difference used to be. So I would see someone, and I know how judges work, I would see somebody playing guard the whole time, trying to throw up a triangle and getting pounded out, and then surprised that they lost the fight kind of thing. That's what it used to be like. But now it's kind of caught up. It's like where it's pretty close. It's the knowledge is everywhere now. You can go on YouTube and learn. You don't have to uproot yourself as much. It's still nice. There's certain little tricks that I think I picked up from uprooting my life and going down there. But you can see a lot online. But the coaching, it's pretty similar. When I closed my gym, I had a bunch of guys I'd been training for 3 years, and they were good amateurs. And I got lucky because I went back to my friend in Alberta. He gave me a job when I went to Red Deer at Arashido, and the job was to work with his pro fighters. So it's like I didn't really have to change anything. It's like, I'm already I don't have to teach people how to shrimp. I don't have to teach people how to escape, the guard. It's like I got these higher level athletes, and I get to work with them. So it was a good transition for me, back. But
Frank's gym, by the way, was NZT, New Zealand Top Team. I don't know why he called it that, but
here it is, right there.
NZT.
So
Nice.
I told you I told you it was New Zealand top team.
It's not. So the Z is at the end. I know limit's not spelled with a Z, but look, it's
No limits. Yes.
Yeah, team. So even the acronym is Limitless. NZT is the drug that Bradley Cooper takes in Limitless, and he uses 100% of his mind. So when I saw that movie, I got really inspired. Within a year of seeing that movie, I had a brand new FJ, and I moved into Al Capone's summer hideout. I lived in his penthouse in LA for 2 years. So that was an inspirational movie, yeah. And what gave me the money to do all that was I got a job at Tap Out, and the manager at Tap Out, she was new to it, so she just kept giving us raises like before we were supposed to get raises. So the owner, that's a whole complete other story. He
guys, I'll be right back. Hold on.
There's a lot more success that could have came out of Tap Out than did. Like there was people that I know after I left that got their SAG card because things were getting filmed in there all the time. The special features on Warrior, that movie, they were filmed in there because of the Tap Out guys. Like it was a good place, but the owner was he was kind of toxic. He just kind of ruined everything for a lot of people. So that's why I left and I took my team. So when I left, they hired Eddie Bravo to take my place. But the difference was they didn't hire Eddie Bravo. They had Eddie Bravo move in and pay rent. So instead of paying someone, now they had someone paying rent, which was it was good for both of them because the Tap Out name helped at 10th Planet. And of course, 10th Planet helped Tap Out. So it's just like Spike TV and and Ultimate Fighter, how they helped each other. It's like, that's how it worked out pretty good. But they were our competition for a while, which is kind of
cool. You are like an MMA, you're like a legend. You basically
David is smiling ear to ear like he's a kid at a candy store.
No, pretty much. Like it seems like you've lived within the culture for so long, yeah. And a lot of I'm so appreciative for you sharing some of your knowledge on here.
Just wish I could keep a coherent thought without rambling.
That's part of the brilliance, man. That's part of the brilliance. Do you guys have any other questions? Or do you guys have any questions while I go through my list?
I'm pretty much kind of all of them have been answered. I wanted to ask about DJ. That was the one for me, the DJ. Oh wait, okay. So you trained Bob Sapp, right? And
no, I trained with Bob Sapp. I didn't train him. Like I've trained with him. Like Matt would be training him. Bob Sapp doesn't train as much as a lot of athletes. I don't know if you can tell. Like
no.
He was a beast when he first came out. But the thing about Bob is the sweetest man on earth. Like the sweetest. So, and this is I never noticed this, but this is a John McCarthy opinion, is that he's a fighter, but he's afraid of fighting. That's John's theory. That's big. That's what he said. It's like, and I don't know that it's afraid, but he's like a super nice guy who puts on a show of being mean, but he, what's fun, like training with Bob Sapp is fun because we were training in a pool one time and he doesn't float. There's no fat. You need some fat to float, right? He's nothing. He's all muscle. Like he's 350 without lifting weights because, he's done so much to get so big. He was 450 with abs at one time. Right? So if you're 450 on all the sauce and you go off all the sauce, his shrunk down to normal. What he is 350 with abs. Like he's not getting any smaller than that. And we're training. So he needs the water wings because he'll just sink to the 350 is solid muscle. So after at AMC, you do 5 rounds of tread. If you have a 5-round fight, you do 5 rounds treading water before you do your swimming. And then you flying arm bars in the shallow end, right? So I said it to him. I said it as a joke. I'm like, oh, we're going to be doing flying arm bars next. And then he's like, hey, yeah, that's funny. And then Matt's like, okay, flying arm bars. So it's easy for me to do one on him, jump up. Mm-hmm. And then he's doing them too, and it works in the water. But we're doing take the back and do a rear naked choke. So when I take his back, to do a rear naked choke, it's like putting your arm around someone's chest because of his neck, grabbing, and like, that's how big his neck is, right? And then when he did it to me, he takes my back. It's like you're in a room because there's an arm here, an arm, and then a hand, and you can't see. Like the whole room goes black because he's just so big. But he's a great guy. But like I said, I just think it's, and this is an opinion that other friends of mine, he's just a super nice guy, and that's how he makes his living, is by fighting. Yeah. So
nothing wrong with it, man. Just worst ways to make a living.
Yeah, but he doesn't like to fight. So, and he even says that. Like, I think I was listening to a podcast the other day where he's going to come out and try and kill you in a minute or two, and if he doesn't get it, he's going to. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Man,
Bob Sapp.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
Oh, were you telling him the Bob Sapp stories?
Yeah.
But see, this is interesting because you see early Bob Sapp where he's throwing Nogueira on his neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you see him kind of, one punch, and he's essentially, I'm not going to say throwing the fight, but he's giving up early, right? And
he's
so with someone who's kind of, sorry?
He's getting the bag.
He's getting the bag. So like as someone who's kind of known him, it's kind of interesting that you do mention that because that would make a lot of sense.
Wait, what did Frank? Oh, about him quitting after the 1 minute? Is that it?
Yeah, I saw that on another podcast, and it totally made sense that like he said it to somebody, so it's not even like it's a secret, but it's just I'm there for the paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Hey, Frank, I want to ask.
Wait. Oh, go. You can go.
No, I was gonna pivot completely.
Okay. Kind of a pivot. I have 2 questions, but who's the best fighter you've trained that the world doesn't really know about?
You want me to say you, don't you?
He already said it, man. Ozzy Diaz. He already said it.
Did he actually?
You know what? Okay, so
no, you don't have to say me. We all know it's true, but you can pick someone else.
When I was at AMC, right, I was teaching what I know, and a lot of it I learned from Matt, a lot of it I learned from Shaw, a lot of it I learned from Silvio tapes, before YouTube. I've in my basement I have 465 like CD cases full of DVDs that are MMA training, and then I have some originals and then some bootlegs, but I have like more, over 1,000 instructionals here kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why I got on that. What was I talking about?
That has nothing to do with what I asked.
It does.
I'm like, best fighter.
Who's the best fighter that you trained that?
But I
might not know about. And Frank's like, down in my basement, I got a Mongolian sex slave, and he's gagball and all, but he's a lovely guy.
How many dead Mongolian sex slaves does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh no!
How many? Hold on.
Apparently more than 3. My basement's still dark.
Cutting this one out.
No, don't. The world must know.
Back on the story.
Oh shit! Do you guys get CP24?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Some actresses got stabbed at the airport. Reese.
Okay, I have to edit that part out.
We're gonna edit this one out.
Wait, who got stabbed at the airport?
Reese. Some actress.
Reese Witherspoon?
No, with a knife, you dummy.
Was that a joke?
It's a bad joke. You didn't get
it? You got it. I didn't know.
Witherspoon with a knife.
Oh my God.
Okay. I have to unfortunately.
I promise you, I was on CBC right now looking up. What?
So I wanted to ask. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Okay, so it's about the best fighter ever trained. So.
And why is it me?
So when I went to the point about the instructionals and like what I've learned and taught to other people, when I was at AMC, I was teaching, but I was teaching, what Matt wanted me to teach. I was teaching his way, and so DJ, he, a lot of his training came from a guy you don't hear a lot about named Steve Skids. Now, when you go to AMC, like Matt is such a strong force, like you end up doing whatever he wants you to do. Like Steve went there to be a fighter, but he became a coach because like I think Matt knew, okay, you're a really good coach. He ended up coaching the Auburn team. And all the titles were coming out of Auburn, like for the amateur titles and stuff. Like there's a couple guys. So Steve Skids was really instrumental in getting like DJ up to the level he's at. He controlled his conditioning. Sometimes he only had 3 days to train with him. Like on a Saturday, they would do their training and their conditioning. Like when you're an amateur fighter, you don't get the luxury of 2-a-days. So your 1-a-day is all your training and all your conditioning. So you're learning your technique, you're doing your sparring, and you're doing your conditioning. So he built DJ a lot all through his amateur career. And then, part of the thing that I'd always done for myself, because I had what I did for myself, which was competing jiu-jitsu to train for a fight. Like my first MMA fight was on a Saturday. After a week before on the Sunday, I did a jiu-jitsu tournament. Like that's how I did it. Like I have a calendar here that was goals at the time. I think it was 97 or 98. It's a big year-long calendar. And then it was a goal at the time, like this tournament, first place. If I didn't get first place, I would change it to what I got second place. But now it's like a diary. So, and this is what it takes to get, to that level. There was 12 jiu-jitsu competitions and 6 fights that I did in that 1 year. So that's the kind of thing you need to do. Like if you want to fight in 2 months and you do 3 tournaments, 3 weeks in a row, and your other conditioning that you're doing, you're in condition to take that fight now. Like that's what it takes. Like 3 tournaments, and that's why tournaments have always been good. So with DJ, I took him he only did 3 tournaments. Remember I said my guys did about 10 or 12? Mm-hmm. After that, DJ did 3. He did 2 intermediates and an advanced, and he got gold in all 3. And he didn't even stick around for his gold medal for 2 of them. He's like, oh, that's cool. I'm done now. And he would just leave. So he didn't even wait to get presented the medal kind of thing. So he started fighting soon after that. Like I said, Ozzy had 12 golds before he did his first competition. But now these guys are stepping in, and they're not. You're not walking out from joining up a gym, training for 3 months, and now you walk out this row of people with lights in your face, and you got to fight. When you do a grappling competition, 2 people might be looking at you. Yeah. When you do a fight, everyone's looking at you. So that's stressful for people. So that's why I did the tournaments.
I was gonna ask. Because I keep hearing the story, like guys, for example, Max Holloway apparently had never trained MMA before his first amateur fight, or guys training for like a few months and then jumping in. Do you think that happens more now or back then? And would you throw a fighter or a newbie in after like only 3 months, maybe 1 competition? Would you throw them in an MMA fight, or do you think like that experience is just...
Depends on the person, because I trained a guy at AMC, and then so there's a little island near Seattle called Mercer Island. They had a Jewish community center there, and then we had like 2 days a week. We opened like a little AMC to try it out there, and then I had a guy there that he only trained for 3 months, and he really wanted to fight. We let him fight. He knocked the guy out with a right cross. So it just, some people can have it, but it's a numbers game. And like I said about Ozzy before, he was super talented. And that's why I let him fight Jens Grau, because I thought, if it was anybody else, I wouldn't have let him. And even though he kind of tricked us into getting him to fight, I didn't want it to happen. And it was the worst possible thing that could happen. He got knocked out. Mm-hmm. So it's like, for the most part, I won't. And then I also used to have a rule that I needed people to train 3 months before they did a grappling tournament. And some of these rules come because of what I was doing. I had a guy who he actually trained 3 months, but he hadn't really been in the class. Like he hurt his hand, so he wasn't really there. He came to a tournament and he watched, and he's good now. But at the time that he did this tournament, I realized he hadn't been on the floor to actually train like more than 10 times. And he was in a Kimura, and I say, go left, and he went right, and he went into it, and he broke his arm. And so I made this rule that people need to train with me 3 months before they get their first tournament even. But this girl Tiffany came along down in LA, and she trained with me for a month, and she really wanted to do this submission only tournament. and we're like, she was good. She was really strong. You know, she'd triangle in dudes. And so I put her in and she won it. So it's like, it's different all the time. It has to be case by case, but I don't know if it happens more or less or it happens the same, but it's like the percentage is bigger because there's more people doing it. You know, like there's going to be an anomaly that comes in, you know, some guy that wrestled alligators his whole life, has never been in a fight, steps into the UFC and knocks everybody out. Right?
How has the evolution of mixed martial arts benefited fighters?
I think so. Back when we were doing it, we had to like there's techniques and there's an actual style now. So MMA now is a style. Before it was like it's totally benefited them. It's like now you go to a gym to learn how to be the best at MMA. Before you would like, okay, I'm a good grappler. I'm going to learn how to kickbox. So you'd go to a kickboxer to learn how to kickbox. So it's just made it so that the fighters are going to be way better. Like, you know, guys like Frank Shamrock was one of the first guys that looked like he had it kind of all together, where he was kicking, punching, doing takedowns, submissions. He was one of the guys. You know, Matt was too. Eric Paulson was kind of one of the guys. I think Eric Paulson was one of the guys. I don't think he was as athletic as some of the other guys, like, because when those wrestlers came along and he ended up losing to these wrestlers, because then wrestlers proved that these guys have the conditioning and the athleticism, because wrestling just makes you a tougher human. Like, it just makes you strong. Even though the word wrestling comes from like to struggle, like that's the base Latin word, means to struggle. It's all about the struggle and imposing your will. In jiu-jitsu, you don't always impose your will. And because of the cross-training, like jiu-jitsu guys do their jiu-jitsu like they're wrestlers. Like when you wrestle with Stefano, he doesn't feel like a jiu-jitsu guy. He feels like he's wrestling you and he's, you know, being an ass to you, crushing your face, trying to steal your soul.
I can attest.
I have to be in shape when I wrestle with him. If I'm not in shape, I'm gasping for air. So
I can attest to that. It's not fun.
No.
Noted. Noted. No, I'm gonna park my joke.
You know what it is with Stefano? Honestly, it's like a consistent pressure with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. It's a consistent pressure, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm in deep water now. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay, that's enough compliments. I feel
Guys,
like
we've got to.
Is this the Stefano flattery hour? What happened? No, please do go on.
There's nothing on my screen except.
Let's talk about Stefano striking. No.
All I can see is Stefano's head right now.
Wait, hold on. My striking's actually pretty good. So anything you wanna say about that too? It's okay. Yeah. All right. Let's move on. I think the world needs to know this. So I wanted to ask Frank, because not everybody knows who this person is, and he's one of the more. Hold on one second. Did you guys hear that?
Yes. What is it?
Okay. Baby.
Hey.
My girlfriend's doing the dishes. So, what I was gonna say is a lot of people don't know who this guy is, and I'm sure Mike might know, but I guarantee you David and Jeremy don't. And it's actually someone Frank's coach, and this guy is such a weird anomaly, and you know, feature in the mixed martial arts world that I think a little bit. But Frank knows exactly who I'm gonna say already.
I think I know.
Yeah. Do you guys know who Phoenix Jones is, aka Ben Flat Top Foder?
The hero of Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wait. Yes, actually. The vigilante.
Yeah, vigilante. Also,
man, don't disrespect me like that.
Listen.
Keep going. Sorry.
Hey, man, I don't think too highly of people who watch team sport, but listen. So,
what about participants?
Notice how I didn't say people who play team sports, Jerry. People who play team sports, it's a bit different, but fans of team sports. Jeremy's
the fans are okay until the fans think they're on the team. Like, oh, we had a close one last night. No, you didn't.
You are part of the team.
You don't have a jersey.
Hold on, you're part of the team. You're part of some franchise bought by some billionaire.
I'm giving
based in a certain city.
Yeah.
You ate at McDonald's once. I am a part of McDonald's. I'm on the McDonald's team.
Jeremy,
what did Jeremy say?
Stefano's just scoring from cheering for the Maple Leafs.
Facts.
Yeah, there it is.
I don't even like hockey anymore. Come on. Since I have
more.
Yeah, because the Maple Leafs. How's that 3-1 going?
Listen. Okay, so what I wanted to say, if you guys don't know, Phoenix Jones, aka Ben Flat Top Fodor, Bellator fighter who fought his own brother in MMA. Yeah, also dressed up as a superhero in Seattle at night called Phoenix Jones and beat people up on the streets. Just Professor Frankie's had some odd stories about this guy.
Last time I saw him, so in 2015 when I came here to take over Shaw's for like 6 months, I drove back and I was driving back through Red Deer, back through BC, down to Seattle for a month, and then I went back to LA. I took my car there, right? So that's the last time I saw Ben or Phoenix. As I think he even fights by that name now, doesn't he? He used to be Flat Top. He always had like a flat top, but it was pink, and it was flat. And his training at the time before he came to AMC, because he never would come to AMC, his brother would, right? Karos would come. So I knew Karos since Karos started. But Ben was like his 19-year-old brother. So in the States, he wasn't old enough to drink. I don't think he would drink anyway, but he was our designated driver. But he would drive around. He'd have a cup on. And he'd have a mouthpiece in his pocket. You know, anytime shit would go down, he's like, "This is what I live for," and he'd throw him in there. And and he's a funny guy, but just crazy stories come out of his mouth. Not all of them true, you know. But you know, he has to say it. Like the stuff he would say, like he would talk about 400 years of slavery is what made him a specimen that he was. And he just go on and on and on and on and on. And some of it's jokes, some of it's serious, and some of it's lies. Right? Like I heard a story that he went to LA and Quentin Tarantino was going to pay him $60,000 for his life story, but it could have been one of his stories. He was in LA at the time, so that's what I thought it might be true, but he always had stories like that. When we got a website, you know, he told me a story. Oh man, I got a website, flattop.com, you know, and people follow me around and stuff. And it seemed legit, so I entered it in the bar and nothing came up. You know, so,
hold on. I just want to point out how old Frankie is. He just described typing in a website as entered it in the bar.
Did I?
I went on the old interweb.
In the middle of a bar, like going on his phone.
Hey, any of you guys in this bar know who PhoenixFlatTopJones.com is? But Jeremy looks like he got some really bad news.
Nah.
Jeremy, you good, bud?
I'm great.
Need a drink?
What?
You need a drink? You need someone to rub your belly? What's going on, man?
Why are you so fixated on me? I'm just
bro, because everyone else is like, yeah, Frank, yeah. Jeremy's just sitting there like this.
But Ben,
getting out of here. Get the freak out of here.
Okay, hold on.
But,
I want go on, Frank. I want you.
But like Ben is like I knew him when he was 19, and he didn't train with us at the time, right? Because it was, you know, he was the top guy at his school, but his training consisted of like hitting the heavy bag for like 30 minutes in a row, like set the timer, boom, 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 and he would win with sheer athleticism because he was athletically like super gifted, like he was a specimen, but his technique was horrible, and he lost one time. He beat Cody McKenzie, an amateur. Remember Cody McKenzie? When Cody McKenzie turned pro, he guillotined like 10 people in a row. He was undefeated, but an amateur, Ben beat him. But Ben lost once. Looked like a light bulb went on, like, oh, you know, I lost because I should learn more. And then the light bulb broke, and he's like, no, I just got to get back and hit the bag harder or whatever. But he came to train with us once when he got kicked. I told you, he got kicked out of his gym. We were talking about weight cutting, and I know what addiction's like. Like, he cut a bunch of weight, and he only had a couple pounds to go. And I don't know the numbers anymore. I used to know him. But his coach dropped him off. So he was supposed to be like 155, and he was like 157 or something. Like, okay. But I know what happened. Like, I wasn't there, but I know that it was like, open the drawer. There's a Twinkie. I'll have one Twinkie. I'll just have to sweat a little more tomorrow. And then he just gorged himself, and he cleaned his thing out. He was like 170 or something the next day. Like he was, yeah. So they kicked him out. Then he came to AMC, and he was training for a while. So then he was training legit for a little bit. But then he just went back to doing his thing, like being the number one guy at the other school. And then him and, you know how stepbrothers are and brothers are. Like sometimes, like I got two friends that are brothers that hate each other and won't even talk to each other. I met them at AMC too. You know, they had that fight. and Ben was upset that Karros was throwing elbows. He's like, that's my brother. He's trying to hurt me. And Karros' side is, I'm trying to win this fight. It's a hard thing. You know, they're fighting each other for money because you're brothers, and that's going to be a big draw. But what are you supposed to pull the punches? Like, I wouldn't fight my brother.
Yeah.
So,
oh man, Jeremy and Michael are brothers, and I just want to say I would pay so much good money for that fight. Oh my goodness.
Wait, hold on. I wouldn't pay money to see Jeremy smoke Mike in 15 seconds.
That's what.
Okay,
just literally crush him. Just like get a hold of him and just
Jeremy,
like,
pay money. You can pay money to see what you think will happen, but what will happen is I'll win. Like, don't worry.
I'm
an older brother.
Listen.
He's just
You versus Jeremy, man. Jeremy would be Johnny Sins, and you would be
we're Christian podcast.
Asa Akira. Okay.
Listen,
I got a question for Jeremy.
listen. This show's about Professor Frank.
But I got questions about Jeremy. I got for you, Jeremy. So,
Yes, sir.
because of his intro, right? I've heard football, but I don't know which football is it that you play. Is it soccer football? Is it football?
Sorry?
Which football? Is it football, like American football, or what we Americans call soccer?
I'm actually multi-talented, so I can play whatever.
Okay.
Jeremy,
No, but
it's a simple question.
what butters your bread?
Frank's like, so is it soccer or American football?
What
And
did
Jeremy's
you
like,
become a
actually, I
All-American
can play.
at?
I can play many things. Sometimes I play the violin. Sometimes on weekends I'll play Mario Kart.
Your impression of my voice changes every week. Do you know that?
It really does.
Yeah, it's getting
But
better.
I play
It's
American
improving,
football.
bro. It's improving. It's
I play
getting
American
better.
football, Professor
So
Frank.
football. Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah, I
my
play
question of you is like the
football.
TI-83. It's improving every single
And
time.
The reason I was pussyfooting around the word is because if it's someone who plays soccer, you call it soccer, they get all crazy.
Yeah, I play soccer and I'm offended.
Right, I knew it. I knew someone was gonna get offended.
Yeah.
No, it's soccer. They need to accept it.
Yeah. Although I do think this could be the year that a soccer player actually wins the Academy Award.
Who, Adam Sandler?
No, just any of those guys taking
Just
those
for
big
diving,
balls.
hilarious.
Yeah.
They
I
actually
just
have a
don't-
Canadian who's absolutely tearing it to shreds.
Oh, in
Alfonso Davies.
Bundesliga. In the
Man,
What?
he's killing it. He's from
He's
Montreal.
flopping?
He's just like this 20-year-old like Haitian kid. He's absolutely killing it. He might
Is
be
he killing it, or is he flopping killing it?
No, like he might be one of the best players in the world. Like
Oh, and he's
legit-
Canadian?
Yeah, he's like from Canada.
I was so
suddenly care
excited
about
for the
soccer.
World Cup this year because Davies and Laren and all of them were really doing their thing.
Yeah. And also just remember this moment where he says he doesn't care about soccer because in 6 years, there's going to be a World Cup and Stefano is going to be the first one pretending he cares just to get tickets.
I cared about soccer since day
Yes!
one. Listen, I've been a soccer fan for years.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, we'll let that one go.
Everybody,
Okay, is there anything we want to talk about, guys?
Oh, wait. An interesting fact. Phoenix Jones, his last fight was against Austin Vanderford. Anyone know who that is?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that big
Mr. Paige Van Zant's husband.
Yeah.
Oh.
He lost.
I know him from Her Fans Only.
I was
No,
gonna make a joke.
It's a Christian
Please,
podcast.
go
guys.
ahead.
It's a Christian podcast. Okay. That is definitely our thumbnail for sure.
I had to
I gotta
write it down because I was gonna say it backwards like he said it because that's the real way.
Fans only.
Because I had a joke, but I went with the Reese Witherspoon joke instead. So
Oh man.
Okay, so Frank, my last question is, who are some of the fighters you like to pay attention to right now? First of all, if you had to describe yourself as a fighter today, who most closely resembles your style? And then who are some other fighters you like to watch?
Guys, hold on. We have breaking news. I just need to interrupt.
okay.
So this is from Ariel Hawani. Kamaru Usman versus Conor McGregor. targeted for UFC July 5th main event.
You're kidding.
Why do you like that matchup, David? Why do you like that?
Because I like Kamaru Usman. What do you mean?
I like Kamaru Usman too, and I think he deserves a legitimate challenger, man.
Are you
Come
kidding?
on. Conor McGregor.
Man, he deserves to get paid.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay,
Yeah.
I agree.
Wait, what's the weight gonna? What are they gonna fight at?
170.
170.
Why?
Usman is slimming down to 170. That dude is like, he has to be like 200 pounds walking.
His back is like,
Bro.
first of all, shaped like a Dorito.
Yes,
like a chocolate Dorito.
What?
Dude, I don't know.
It is.
I don't
You know
know
what? I bet
Dana
you they
White
have that
is.
flavor in the States.
Sounds delicious.
Well, ew, what the hell is wrong with you? First of all, what did Conor McGregor do to piss off Dana White?
He asked for this fight. He was trying to get Masvidal.
No.
He was trying to get Masvidal. He asked for a fight. He's been going back and forth with Usman from the get-go.
Usman's a real welterweight, man. This is
man.
Conor McGregor's trying to legitimize his list that he put on Twitter or whatever, saying that he's the second greatest of all
Man,
time.
if he gets a third belt in a third division,
I want people to express. I want to express what's gonna happen because I like Conor McGregor actually. For the record, I a lot of people.
Me too.
People think I have this I've developed this reputation being Conor McGregor hater on the internet because I wrote a couple articles about like certain things.
Conor McGregor sucking. Yeah, I get it.
But like the thing is that I actually like his style. I really think he's actually done a lot for like a lot of kind of unorthodox Eastern martial arts-esque styles in
Wow, very racially.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So as far as Conor, like when I moved to the States, I had a couple choices, and one was Straight Blast Gym. I was gonna go move to Oregon and train there. But, I knew that was a good gym. But AMC was the place that I thought of before. I ended up at AMC, and then the product of AMC, and AMC's way of training and hard work was DJ, Mighty Mouse. That's what came out of there. Straight Blast Gym, I find Conor came up too, but a lot of it was skill, but a lot of it was the way he sold himself. And for a long time, it was that persona that he put on. And it was great because he would sell tickets, and then after, he would be super respectful, like that was a great fight. But around the time with Khabib, with the bus and the break and stuff, it's like he kind of become the character he was playing.
Yeah.
And like the martial arts, the martial arts aspect was always there with him, like up until that. And then it was just like, it's like he'd lost it. It's like, I created this character, and now I'm playing him. And
which is why it was so refreshing. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, you go ahead. No,
I was just going to say it was so refreshing to see his perspective or his approach coming up to the Donald Cerrone fight, because he looked like he was
starting to
like
figure
more,
it out again.
He was Zen.
I don't know if he was putting it on, but
he was Conor the Shaolin monk McGregor at that time, man. Just Zen coming in there. But I don't know, man. This matchup just seems like a disaster. If his wrestling defense, which looked decent against Khabib, won't keep up over 5 rounds against Khabib, against Usman, we're talking a wrestler up a division on the bigger end of 70.
But a lot of people would say that Khabib is a better wrestler than Usman, though. Like a lot of people.
I got a question.
Hold on. I just want to address that comment.
MMA wrestler.
I would say I don't know about that, man, because I think Kamaru has more tools to close the distance than Khabib.
Sure.
Also, the thing about Khabib, though, there is that year or two off where he, was chasing after the Floyd fight and everything. So it's like, and then by the time that he did the Floyd fight and came back, like he had, again, that experience of doing it a couple times a year as opposed to like once every 2 years, that sucked on. Like if he could have kept that 2 rounds, the first 2 rounds, you can tire someone out with counter wrestling, but if you don't have the experience, you don't have the conditioning's not there. That's why I thought every fight was gonna, before Stefano got on the phone, we were talking about that fight that I said every fight I thought was gonna look like, because they both look like they're out of shape on the couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then I thought all the fights were gonna look like that, and I was actually amazed that the card was really good. I thought it was just gonna be. Go ahead. Yep.
No, I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead, finish.
Okay. I lost it anyway.
I just want to know, how did McGregor learn how to strike? Because his footwork in the Mayweather fight was horrific.
He's
Well, resident footwork expert here, Jeremy.
It was like because guys like Israel Adesanya, their kickboxing acumen, their footwork is like so precise. But
but boxing footwork is different. It's not the same. Boxing.
Yeah, so I want to know like Conor McGregor is regarded as a good striker, but in the MMA, so how come his striking doesn't translate? I mean, not his striking, but his
actually have a good.
The distance is completely different.
Yeah.
I actually
I want to know, how did he learn how to strike?
He started out as an amateur boxer. He was an amateur boxer at first. Like he's had some amateur boxing fights.
Did he just forget how to
karate?
What's that?
It's not that how he forgot, Jeremy. It's that it's a world class, maybe the best boxer ever against somebody who doesn't have professional boxing experience. Like
makes sense. But
the level of understanding of the sweet science that Conor McGregor has is just nowhere near that of Floyd. It's like,
you can't do 12
in boxing is 1-1, right? You have to keep that in mind. Yeah, Anderson Silva is one of the greatest strikers to ever grace MMA.
Adesanya were to go into the boxing ring, his footwork would look much better.
No.
Yeah, but hold on. That's
But
different as well. Conor. Okay, first of all, Jeremy, I just want to ask, what was it about Conor McGregor's footwork in particular that you found so bad in that fight?
He looked like he was trying
any specifics
around the ring.
He looked like he was what?
He looked like Rocky Balboa trained him, like he was chasing a chicken around the ring. Like,
no.
He was chasing a chicken around the ring.
That's what he was doing.
He was facing Floyd. Floyd kind of does that. Like Floyd, one of the things Floyd. Does anyone remember the Ricky Hatton fight versus Floyd Mayweather and how bad Ricky Hatton looked?
His last big knockout, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, where Ricky
he
was
wasn't
kind
doing it the same way though. He was doing it like. Because Floyd was coming forward way more. Remember, Conor kept saying, "I turned you into a Mexican," because Mexican fighters come forward. Remember he said that because he was coming forward because he could. Because Conor, the thing, if you've never had a pro boxing fight, your first pro boxing fight is 4 rounds tops, and then you work up to 5 rounds, 6 rounds. You're not doing 12 rounds. Like that doesn't matter. And now against the best defensive fighter
of all time, pretty much.
Yeah.
Defense really, he came forward, didn't he? Because you're gonna gas, and then it looked like he was gassing, and then a lot of people watched it and said, no, that wasn't even gassing, that was damage causing him to do that. But you can't go from never having a professional boxing fight to doing 12 rounds. Like nobody does that.
That's why I hate this narrative of. Have you been paying attention to the Ngannou versus Fury narrative, or every heavyweight wants to do like a boxing match? Like,
can we stop this talk of crossover between boxing and MMA?
Please.
Can we just? I don't. It's bad. It produces sloppy, stupid fights.
It always seems like it's always the MMA guys going over the boxing and not the boxing guys going to MMA.
Hold on. James Toney's got words for you.
Okay, James Toney at the end of his career is not the same as Conor McGregor after winning two.
Clarissa Shields wanted to fight Amanda Nunes, and you said you didn't want to see that fight. So what are you talking?
I would watch that fight though.
No.
I would.
That's not my point.
My point is
that we don't get boxing guys going, hey, I want to fight MMA, where MMA guys get a chance to be like, you see, this is what happens when a boxer comes to MMA. He's gonna get lit up. Whereas all the MMA guys want to go to boxing because they can get that payday.
There are boxers
the WBO and the WBC is corrupt as hell, and when they go over there and try to get that payday, they get lit up. And so all the boxing guys get their opportunity to be like, hey, MMA, you see, this is what happens. You get shown the hands. So I would just like it for one person to go over there, like maybe a Floyd. He faces like TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw kicks his legs, teaches him a lesson, and sends him back.
Wait, Floyd's not stupid, though. Floyd's not stupid. None of these boxers are stupid. Canelo even said it. Like, when Canelo was asked about these stupid cross-promotion fights, like, Floyd's making hundreds of millions of dollars. Why is he going to come over to the UFC, take a substantial cut to his pay in a sport where he knows he's going to get humiliated? No, it's far easier for him to talk on social media and attract attention. Like,
yeah, no, that's fair.
Like,
a lot of these, that's what a lot of it is. Like, Bob Sapp fighting Mike Tyson was supposed to happen way back a long time ago. And it just becomes a thing just to promote, K1.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't be surprised if that comes up again. I was going to say.
Yeah.
There's a chance it might. Mike Tyson's looking good.
Like, Mike Tyson's looking for a fight.
But he was saying just exhibitions, right? Like not Rocky IV exhibition, where you pull an Ivan Drago, but like actual exhibition. But he doesn't have a style that you can spar with. Like he can't. No, he's been like how in MMA we train and we take care of our partners. You can't be taken care of one of his partners, especially him when he was coming up. It's like, okay, here's money. Try and hit this guy and not get knocked out, because you can't slow that down. He can't play tag. He's too short. He's got to get in and knock your head off. Like, that's where boxing's different. You pay the sparring partners because they're not going to be your friends ever, because you're going home with brain damage, right? Remember the biggest news story in 1989 or something was the sparring partner knocked Mike Tyson down, And then there were just jokes like, where'd he move to? Is he in the witness protection program? Like, where'd he go? Like, is this? But they're fighting for their life. My buddy Flex, who would come down and stay with me in LA, and he'd go to Wildcard a lot. And then Freddie would train him for free, because Freddie charges ridiculous amounts to like lawyers that want to give them money so they can hit pads. And Barry knew that, but he saw Barry training with these other guys. He's like, oh, you got time? I'll hold some pads for you. And then Barry's like, oh, I don't know if I can. No, just jump in the ring. I got time. And he trained him. So every time he would go down there, he would always train him. Why did I get on Freddie? What am I talking about?
Freddie Roach?
Yeah, Freddie Roach. It was something about Freddie Roach.
Classic, man. Another legend in the game.
I remember when Freddie was training GSP though for that Colcher fight, and all of a sudden for that Colcher fight, GSP came with this jab, right? And he mixed it in with his wrestling, and GSP looked the best I've ever seen him. Like, it was crazy. I can't remember what you had to do with it.
It was something to do with Barry, Freddie, and Mike Tyson. Like, I don't know.
We don't need to see the new Mike Tyson, a 50-year-old Mike Tyson.
Thank you.
Because you saw him when he was like when he fought Lennox Lewis.
Like, he was beat up. He got beat up.
Yeah, he also, because of Robin Givens, he was on these antipsychotics that he had to take, right?
Yeah.
But about 2 weeks before every fight, he would go off those. He would just go off them, and then, bring back some of the pre-marrying Robin Givens, Mike Tyson. And for that, he was court mandated. He had to stay on them. So one, he's subdued anyway. Two, his style with his weaving works when he gets in on you and smashes you. He was staying on the outside. All he is a moving target. He's not even getting. He should have fought Lennox. Lennox should have fought him when Mike Tyson wanted to fight him.
Man, can we just? I feel like we don't talk enough about how great maybe because we're not a boxing podcast, but
right.
Canadian legend Lennox Lewis.
Yes,
I've met Lennox Lewis. Like, man, and we'll talk off air. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people think it's Mike Tyson and the antipsychotics was all about the Robin Givens, but I think it was more about the Robin Cummins, if you know what I mean.
And with that, the podcast is over.
Hold on. So no.
We should wrap it up.
Yeah, who else is not excited to see a Mike Tyson who's 10 years Franks Jr. fight again in boxing?
37? Like clone him or something? Or?
No, Mike's 52, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I thought you were, okay.
Yeah, he's 10 years your junior.
I thought you were talking, you mean at his age now?
Yeah, his age now. He's 10 years your junior. Frank, you're 60, 63, 64.
Remember when he retired in the ring because he was like, I just don't have this shit anymore.
Oh, yeah, Gates McBride? Yeah, like
Kevin
McBride?
Yeah. What's the fight? Holyfield? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Holyfield terrible, too.
Holyfield has
behind the scenes with Holyfield, and he did not look good.
Dude, I've heard some interviews with Evander Holyfield. The man has advanced CTE. He does not sound
really?
Yeah. He doesn't sound great.
There's someone I told you to look up before who in the 80s was just sharp, and now he sounds really bad. I think he won the Olympics. I can't remember his name. It's not on my head right now, but.
Ronald Reagan?
No.
There's definitely an irony here.
165-ish, I think.
Joe Biden?
Who?
Joe Biden.
Okay, now
did
the
you guys-
podcast is over.
Did you guys hear what Joe Biden said?
Absolutely.
If you vote for me and not Trump, you're not really black.
I gotta commend Charlemagne the God for checking him on that.
Man, it's rigged. That's all I gotta say. It's
Who
rigged.
the hell is Charlemagne the God?
It's
The
set up.
interview.
Wait, I'm just kidding. I don't really care.
Okay, man, we gotta wrap this up because we're over 2 hours now.
Okay.
Are we over 2 hours? Oh, we're like 1:40 in. Okay, fine. Stefano, talk about how you're gonna murder.
Wait, hold on.
everybody.
Anyone, Frankie? Anyone you want to shout out, man? Anything?
Actually, yeah.
Oh yes, please.
I don't know. I was answering a question about people that I trained. Okay, so when I got to Tap Out and I got to train, Ozzy was the guy that I got to train like from day one.
Mhm.
So I can't even remember what the question was, but I talked about I helped train DJ. You know, I helped train other people. When I went to Fight Academy, it's weird when you're the jiu-jitsu coach and your job is to wait till the fight gets to the ground before you do your coaching. Like when you're standing beside, it doesn't work that way. You got kickboxing coaches that are like, okay, as soon as it goes to the ground, you take over. Like, you know, I have to get it to the ground or I have to keep it off the ground. Like that's why there's MMA coaches. You can't take 3 different coaches and put them together. But Ozzy was a guy that I got to train. You know, Ozzy, he had football, and the most he ever got down to with football was 280. And then he got down to 240 training jiu-jitsu. He's like, wow, it's the lightest I've ever been since high school. And then now he fights at 185. But I don't know. After I left, he had to get a surgery or something. So I don't know really. He's only had about 5 fights since he turned pro.
Yeah, his last fight was at Bellator, I think.
Yeah. I think he won his last one. The one before that, he won with knees. I don't know what the last one was, but yeah, I talked to him about 2 years ago, so I haven't really talked to him that much. But he's one of the guys that, you know, I was happy because I got to implement everything I learned from everywhere else into one person. Then when I left, I got to train a couple people, and they all went undefeated at Arashido. Like I trained, he was fighting one of, I don't know why I'm dropping names. This is what happens when you're 47, guys. It just it slips away. You watch it drop your memory, and then you're like, I think I can fish it back, and then it just sinks. And you gotta let it go.
God damn.
Anyway, but yeah, that's the answer to that question, I guess. Ozzy was one of the guys that
Do you know what I just realized? We said Dominic Reyes, not Dominic Cruz.
Okay.
I was picturing Dominic Cruz in my mind this entire time.
I know that.
Yeah, Reyes.
David. You're picturing Dominic Cruz?
That's why I was confused.
A 185-pound Dominic Cruz? What is the man eating?
Were they 205 back? I think they were both 205 fighters back then.
Yeah.
What does Reyes fight at? He's 205 now, right? Yeah.
Reyes fights at 205.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
Ozzy moved down.
Like, you're better
Ozzy
than-
moved down to 185.
Come on, man.
No,
Okay.
cool.
I hope you got
Frankie,
some.
Frankie, is there anyone you wanted to anyone or anything you wanted to shout out on air?
I don't know. Don't do drugs, kids. Stay in school.
Hilarious. Name me your gym.
No,
Okay.
I'm just training at Matador with this guy once in a while when the quarantine's over.
Yes.
And I go up to a place. I was going up to a place called Paradigm up in Bradford because a couple of the guys that train at Matador train up there. But before that, we didn't talk about Shaw Franco today, but he was he was. I was lucky to spend a lot of time with him from 1998 to 2004. Kind of 99 to 2004. That's when I met him, and there's a ton of guys. But if you ever have me back on and I can string some more coherent thoughts together, then we'll bring up them. I know there's a lot of podcasts where all those guys are out there telling their stories. So I just
I was gonna say not if, but when we have
when we have Frankie back on. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the Culture Shock Hour. Whatever.
That's the name of the episode. I don't care.
Culture Shock.
All right, we're taking it.
Don't put a U in my name.
I always put a U in your name.
Yes, and he did, and I couldn't find you.
Oh, really?
For the record, it's Colcher.
Yeah, it was Google who corrected me.
Down here?
Yes. Perfect.
Extortion shakedowns. Wedding.
Rub outs. Okay.
Oh, there's the name, though. The name's on the other side.
Awesome. Cool.
Damn, Profesh. I love it. I love it.
Hey.
All right.
So,
Stefano, talk about how you're gonna burn people at the stake.
so I got a little something different this time, guys. Every day, millions of starving African children scour the internet.
Oh no. There goes
They're-
the
they-
CRTC license.
They go hungry. They go hungry every single day, scouring the internet for likes and subscriptions. But today on the Light Kick podcast, we have some good news. African children like Mike, David, and Jeremy.
Oh, no.
African children who all they need to feed them is 1 like a day. You can feed them
No.
by
No, we're not
subscribing.
doing this. No, we're not doing this.
Feed them by subscribing to the Light Kick
We're
podcast.
not doing this.
I'm sold. I'm going to donate a like. Right now.
by subscribing to the Light Kick and just giving our podcast 1 like a week, you can buy these African children of the internet such essential supplies as microphones, cameras, and other things they need in their search for internet clout. Don't be a miser, guys. Contact World Vision. The Light Kick podcast. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We're taking over. We're feeding Africa, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Oh, one more thing. Still not sponsored by Gatorade.
Still not.
I don't know how we follow that up. We are feeding
Sorry,
Africa.
what happened?
I'll leave it
I cut out.
Yeah,
I was just saying how we're not sponsored by Gatorade. And Mike, to play us out, what does that mean? As the great Bill O'Reilly once said.
Okay. So after that debacle that will probably get us in trouble on multiple levels, but why not? Let's keep it. For those wondering, it is packed outside because it's hot. So please pack our view count and our likes and our subscriptions. Let's be the Trinity Bellwoods Park of. Oh, David doesn't live in Toronto, so he doesn't know what happened with Trinity Bellwoods Park.
I do. I have the news.
Okay. Yeah.
Guys, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Podcast Addict, iTunes, anywhere where you find podcasts. You can find the link.
Facebook.
I know you're wedging out, but you're the guy that kissed that girl on the news. Right there, Stefano. That was you, wasn't it?
It was.
I'm the hero the city needs. Okay.
Hilarious.
You made the girl snort.
Okay, guys.
Oh, I made her do a few other things. I made her do
probably the first time, huh? Awesome.
All right.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Trust me. If you watch it.
Hey, all right. Hey, snorting is what Conor McGregor must have been doing when he took that Kamaru Usman fight. Am I right?
You're right. That's gonna be interesting.
Conor was like, oh, what's this? A contract from Dana White? Hold on. I'm in. 170 title fight, baby. Let's go.
Okay. All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Stay safe. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you to Frank, Johnny King Colcher for coming on to the podcast, by the way. Thanks. It was entertaining.
Thanks for having me, guys.